Ah yes, Peugeot, or as some of the older people used to call it when I was a kid, Peugeot. To be fair, if I say Peugeot to you, probably not much comes to mind other than a car company that seems to name their models after what I can only assume are all the available code names under the Secret Service at the MI6. No 007, but you do get his fat cousin, Agent Peugeot 3008. Oh dear. Now, if you're into cars, it has probably come to your attention that Peugeot is going through somewhat of a renaissance, one which they desperately needed. That's because in the last 2 decades, Peugeot, well, they were running their own race. The boys on Top Gear, they put it best. It did seem like Peugeot at some point, at the turn of the century, simply decided to start putting out some of the most utterly dreadful vehicles of the modern era. I mean, the designs had some life in them. They were okay. But the execution, well, that was woeful. Tin cans on the road, if you ask me. But perhaps that's too much praise for those things. I doubt there was any metal used to create them. I say that because when you entered an early 2000s Peugeot, you got the slight impression that the interior was made of second-hand Tupperware. It was incessantly plasticky. The trim was flimsy and hollow. They were quite honestly some of the worst offerings of that time. But what made this quite annoying was not the cars themselves. It was that we all knew that Peugeot was better than that. Much better than that. Now, for those of you who don't know, Peugeot has quite a long history. 200 years in the game, in fact. With all their years of expertise, there came a time when they had become a byword for sturdy ruggedness and reliability. A Peugeot was a sort of Bear Grylls on wheels, if you get what I'm saying. I know. Imagine that. It seems a bit far-fetched now. You see, it's one thing to use the lion, the king of the jungle, as the emblem for your car company. It's another thing to live up to the standard of being the king of the jungle. Peugeot, however, was not fazed by this pedestal that they had placed themselves up upon, because they really did set out to become kings of wherever the hell their damn cars went. Africa is the home of the lion, and despite what Lion King would have you believe, it was not Simba that ruled the fast and cruel safari land. No, it was Peugeot. It was a dynasty that was unchallenged, and it all began with the Peugeot 404. The Peugeot 404 is quite simply a legend in Africa and in some parts of South America. Its production began in 1960 and it ran until 1975. It was quite simply a family car that was designed by legendary Italian design house Pininfarina. Yeah, that's right. A Pinin ran in Africa. Imagine that. A car designed by the Italians and built by the French, quite simply, it should have been a recipe for a very stylish disaster. Now, the design was actually fairly lovely and simple in the Italian way. Very simple, purposeful lines. It had small but present hips at the front where it housed the lights, and they ran all down the side to meet the tail lights in an elegant manner without fuss. It did come in multiple variants. You could have a 4-door saloon, you could have a 5-door estate, and 2-door coupe, and eventually, because it proved to be so rugged, you could even have a pickup. So you may be wondering then, how such a seemingly simple vehicle became the king of Africa. Well, that's very simple. You see, because Peugeot, knowing what they created, decided to enter the 404 into motorsport. And not just any motorsport, but the roughest and toughest kind that was around. Peugeot entered the 404 into the grueling Safari Rally. The Safari Rally was a rally held in Kenya. This rally was thought to be perhaps one of the most difficult rallies in the World Rally Championship to win. What with rough roads, rocks littered all over the place, and drastic weather changes. Now you might expect that this cutesy Italian-French hybrid would come apart, surrender, and then switch sides at the sight of the first hill. But no, it took the rally by storm. The Peugeot 404 won the Safari Rally, and it won it not once, not twice, but 4 times, and 3 in a row. They used to say, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And with all the victories the car recorded, it was no wonder that it had completely endeared itself to the African clientele. Now, the Peugeot 404 quite simply became the master of where it damn well it decided to go. So popular was it in Africa that production started in a number of African countries. They could not simply have them shipped to them. They decided to build them. That's just how good it was. The DNA was all over the car. It was produced in South Africa, in Madagascar, in Rhodesia, modern day Zimbabwe. In Kenya, they produced the car until 1991. That's 30 years of production. The 404 was also quite popular in parts of South America, in places such as Argentina and Uruguay. For developing countries without an expansive road network, this may have been the only real car of choice. It had good ground clearance, it could go anywhere, and it hardly broke down. Even today, in certain countries, you'll still see these little fellows plucking along, having done unfathomable distances in their lifespan. Yes, with the 404, Peugeot really did earn its badge. It was truly the king of the jungle. You know, I think it's key to note that anyone in Peugeot's position at that time could have grown complacent. But they say standing still is the same as going backwards, and clearly they were all too aware of this at the Peugeot headquarters. They decided they had to milk Africa for everything it was worth, and they had to milk the 404 name for everything it was worth. Typical colonizer mindset. It was then that they released the successor to the 404, the 504. I know, right? Groundbreaking. Further sinking their teeth into the African market, the Peugeot released the 504 in 1968, and my God, was it pretty. Designed yet again by Pininfarina, it captured the imagination of anyone with an eye for visual aesthetics. What more, the body was built to be tough and improved suspension made sure that it got even further. Yet again, it ensnared the hearts of all those living in rough terrain countries. It too was then produced in countries such as Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Chile, Argentina, Tunisia. In fact, Nigeria loved it so much that they produced it until as recently as 2006. It produced 425,000 units. It really was the Ronda Rousey of cars. Pretty enough to capture any man's eye, but tough enough to take gut punches on a daily basis without even so much as a wince. What more, it was not just in Africa. It won a European Car of the Year award in 1969. 69. Could this be one of the greatest cars ever made? It very possibly could be. The 504, although not as successful as its older sibling, still managed to win 2 Safari rallies, as well as twice in Morocco and once in Cote d'Ivoire. Peugeot had truly cemented its position as the king of the African roads. It all kind of went downhill from there though. This period in the company's history is not easily forgotten, however. Memories of these cars still appear vividly in the minds of those whose worlds were greatly expanded due to the go-anywhere ability of these legends. And that's what they are, legends. Anyway guys, this has been Private School Tav. Make sure to subscribe for more. I'll check you out the next time.